So the Jubilee celebrations are well and truly over, and we now focus entirely on Boris Johnson's complete car crash of a leadership of his party, of the country, the events in Number 10, the lack of conservative policies. And I've got to tell you, I'm not in the least bit surprised that those letters have now gone into Graham Brady. Let me tell you why. You will have seen on Friday at St Paul's Cathedral, the Prime Minister being booed. I have to say, I wasn't in the least bit surprised by this. And I'm guessing it's that public pressure that MPs have felt during the recess that has made them put letters in. On Thursday morning early, I was in London. I was lucky enough to have a ticket for Trooping the Colour. As I walked with some friends towards the parade ground, I joked that it looked like a UKIP party rally. Everyone was there, dressed up in their Union Jacks. It was the super patriots on display. It was a massive, overwhelming Brexit crowd. And the happiness and joy, which many of them greeted me with, made me realise these were the UKIP voters. These were the Brexit Party voters. These were the voters who gave Boris his majority in December 2019. They'd come down to London from all over the country. And as I walked, after Trooping the Colour, or really say fought my way through the crowd on the Mall to get to the GB News position down near the front, I met hundreds and hundreds of people. Later on that afternoon, I was back in the Mall and walking through St James's Park. I literally spoke to hundreds of people on Thursday, all of them the kind of people who voted for Boris Johnson. And what did I get? Well, the biggest anger was about the lies. It wasn't about the parties. It wasn't about the drinking. They couldn't care less. Everybody said, look, we broke the rules too during lockdown. But the persistent lies had really, really got to them. Open borders, immigration going up, and in particular, what's happening in the English Channel was enraging many of them, and the seeming impotence, despite promises of Rwanda, for the government to act. But there was something even bigger that I picked up, and it was this. They all thought Boris was entertaining, amusing, funny. They now think he's a shambles and a total embarrassment. And I was really struck by the strength of feeling that I met out there on Thursday. So the letters have now gone in, and at 6 o'clock tonight, Conservative MPs will have to make a very important decision, a vote of confidence in the leader of their party and the Prime Minister. Tory MPs have had these chances before. They had it 30 years ago with John Major at Maastricht. They blew it. They didn't have the courage to get rid of him, and it led to a crushing defeat a few years later. But think in more recent times. December 2018, enough letters went in, there was a confidence vote in Theresa May. Probably the worst Prime Minister we've had in the history of this country, as she was busy betraying Brexit. Once again, Tory MPs did not have the courage to act. Now, the commentariat will tell you she was fatally wounded and she resigned 6 months later. What they cannot acknowledge or admit is none of this happened because of Tory MPs. No, she was safe for at least another year. It was the fact we didn't leave the European Union that meant there was a European election. I founded the Brexit Party. We crushed them in that election. It was their worst result, under 10%, their worst result in 200 years. She resigned before the votes had even been counted. Boris Johnson wouldn't even be Prime Minister. Scores of those MPs wouldn't even have their seats if I hadn't set up the Brexit Party. I got rid of Mrs May, not the Tory MPs. But this time round, there won't be another European election. There won't be another big, dramatic outside intervention. This time round, it's up to the MPs and the MPs only to decide whether they can save themselves. Why do I say that? Well, if you read the Daily Mail and other conservative supporting newspapers, they will say to you, if they get rid of Boris, they're doomed. I promise you, between a quarter and a third of those who voted Conservative in 2019 are absolutely disgusted with Boris, with this government in every way. They're not going to vote for them. No, of course they're not going en masse to Keir Starmer. Many of them will either stay at home and sit on their hands, or they will seek alternatives, as they did years ago with UKIP and the Brexit Party. I make this one promise, and by the way, I'm not bad at reading the political tea leaves. If they keep Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, the Conservatives are headed for a 1997 style total disaster. So this is all in their hands with a few hours to go. Now, the complication is there are 140, maybe perhaps even more, but 140 estimated MPs that are on the payroll. They've got jobs as part of the government, and out of a total of 359 MPs, that is a big number. So will 180 MPs muster up the courage to get rid of this man? He was the right man for 2019, but he's not the right man for now. Well, I don't know. We are going to find out. There is no obvious successor, and that means getting rid of Johnson is a gamble, but it's not as big a gamble as keeping Boris Johnson and heading to inevitable disaster. A leader needs to emerge who we can believe has honesty and integrity. A leader needs to emerge who makes it clear they're not going to allow immigration, whether it's legal or illegal in Britain, to go on to record numbers even bigger than in the Blair years. And a leader needs to emerge who can look the British people in the eye and promise them that the lights will stay on, that we're going to have an energy policy that means we're not beholden to other parts of the world. I can't promise that person will come through, but they might. Mrs. Thatcher crept through in 75 from absolutely nowhere. So it's a big day, a big moment for the Conservative Party, for the country. And if they don't take this opportunity, they will regret it for the rest of their careers. By the way, their careers, not as members of Parliament. I really hope the Conservative movement gives itself a chance today to live to fight that next election. I promise you once again, if Boris stays, they're doomed.